Hey y'all, welcome back to Krista's Kitchen. As you can see, we have our Ninja Foodi going. It's in pressure cooker mode. We've got a pork shoulder in there, or a Boston butt, whichever you like to call it, and we're making some pulled pork. We're going to split this up into a few different recipes, but for today we're going to try and create like a pulled pork taco soup. We don't really have all the ingredients here that I usually would use for my taco soup, and I don't feel like driving the 45 minutes to the grocery store, so we're going to use what we have. I feel like I say that a lot, but taco soup, there's so many different recipes out there, so really as long as you stick to the basics, I think it will turn out good. But we're going to play with our food and see if we can build a good new recipe. And the only reason we're using the pulled pork is we found it on sale the other day at the grocery store and bought it, and it's about 9 pounds. Cut it all up and we're going to cook it and see how this turns out. I'll add in a little clip to show y'all how we cut it, seared it, and seasoned it before it went in the pressure cooker. And then we'll come back and play with adding in different vegetables and seasonings to it to see how we can really build that flavor. But show y'all how we seared it and seasoned it, and then I'll see y'all back in a bit. I just trimmed a little bit of the fat off of this edge also, but we ended up with 5 pieces instead of the 4. This one's got the long piece of bone running through it. So we're just going to bring our Ninja Foodi over and sear these, and then we're going to cook them on high pressure for about 60 minutes after we sear them. Okay y'all, so our meat is almost done searing. I actually have it turned off because it's pretty much what we need. It's just cooling down just a little bit. But we're going to put all these other pieces back in, and we're going to pressure cook this on high for 60 minutes. We're going to add some seasoning to it. I'm kind of wondering if this whole thing will fit. It don't fit, but it's tight. Might have to rearrange some pieces. So I'm going to see if I can get it to fit a little bit better. So we got it all to fit down in there. It is a tight fit. But we're going to add some seasoning and kind of make it a mix of seasoning between what our taco soup would be, but also our pulled pork, since only half of this is going into the taco soup. So we're going to add about a heaping tablespoon of beef bouillon or beef base. And if you don't have this, just use beef broth in place of this water. But I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of water with that, and that's just so we don't get that burn notice whenever it starts trying to pressurize. So this is about 2 tablespoons of chili powder, and if you really want to amp up the flavor, you can even add this before you sear it and let it marinate for a little while. Next we're going to add in about 1 tablespoon of paprika. This is smoked paprika, but you can use regular paprika. There's not really a big difference. I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, about 1 tablespoon of onion powder. Mine's all clumpy. That'll be okay. It'll break up while it's pressure cooking. 1 tablespoon of cumin. And I know this looks like a lot of seasoning, but think that's almost 10 pounds of meat in there. And then we're going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt and about 1 teaspoon of pepper. Alright, we're going to put our lid on and cook this, like I said, on high for 60 minutes. And hopefully it will be nice and tender. Okay y'all, so the pork is all done and it turned out beautifully. I did let it naturally release just because I started psyching myself up about would it be ready or would it be done or would it not. I do have, and I think that helped a ton, I do have some of these larger chunks that I'm going to put back in because they're not quite as tender. I mean, I could probably force them to shred, but I'm just going to go ahead and use these pieces for the taco soup and then shred them as they cook, and then that way I can pull off some of the fatty pieces as well. You'll see I pulled all the broth out, and I've got it in my little separator over here. So I'm going to try and use that again. And see, it's not that it's not tender, because you can see I can push this, just kind of smash it. It's just not as tender as the other parts were. I'm going to do that. That's about maybe a third of the meat we had. So probably about 3 pounds worth. I also have 1 large onion that I diced up. And this is my fancy little separator. This was all of the broth and stuff that was down in the pan. And this is all good broth. This at the top is grease. So I just poured it in and let it sit for a minute. And we're going to pour this brothy seasoned mixture back down in here. Let's see. I know it tells me how much. So this is 3 cups that we're going to end up, 3 cups of liquid that we're ended up putting back in, because I'm not going to put the grease in. And look at all of that grease that we were able to sift off of it. Now this is going to be really good for our base layer of flavoring. We're going to add some more flavoring to it though. So I'm adding in about 10 ounces of corn. This is just my frozen corn, what I have left of this little 12-ounce bag. So I'm guessing that it's about 10 ounces. I'm going to add in a can of Rotel, a can of diced tomatoes, a can of black beans with the juices, and 2 cans of pinto beans with the juices. And lastly, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of taco seasoning, or what one of the packets would be. Now once this heats all the way through, we'll check and see if we need to add any more seasoning or salt or anything like that. But I think this is going to be a good base for us to start with. And I do have it cooking on high just because I want to cook that pork a little bit more since we have the big chunks down in here. Now if you don't like beans all that much, like we love beans. My kids and I, like, we can eat beans all the time. So I know this is a lot of beans in here, and that's on purpose for us. But if you don't like as many, maybe replace it with an extra can of tomatoes or something, or just leave it out altogether and make a smaller pot. But they're a really good source of protein and iron, and we like the way they taste. So that's why I added 3 whole cans. Plus I wanted the variety of pinto and black bean. Alright, y'all. So I'm going to put the lid on this and let it cook on high for about 3 to 4 hours. So while our taco soup simmers away, we're going to make our dessert for tonight. So it's cherry delight pie, which is basically just like a no-bake kind of cherry cheesecake pie. So I have a stick of butter down in the bottom of the bowl, mostly melted. It should be melted all the way, but I'm trying to rush things. I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of sugar. And we're just making our graham cracker crust bottom. So if you want to skip this step and buy a graham cracker crust like in a pan, that works too. But we're going to add in about 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs. And then we're going to stir this all together and make a crust. And these are just, I mean, you can make your own crumbs, but these are just like the box of crumbs. So we're just going to mix this all around. And we'll pour it down in the bottom and just press it down into it. And we don't have to bake this or anything. Just press it in really good. Okay, y'all. And this is a thicker crust. Yeah, I feel like it's a good balance to the cream and everything. But I'm going to wash my hands, rinse the bowl, and then we'll move on to the cheesecake layer. Okay, now we're going to make the cheesecake mixture, like the filling part of it. So I just have a block of cream cheese down in my bowl. And the bowl's not dirty. I made my whipped cream. You can use Cool Whip or make your own. It's up to you. But I just made it in the same bowl and moved it over to the side. I'm going to add in a cup of powdered sugar and about a teaspoon of vanilla. We're just going to blend this until this is all softened, and then we'll add in the whipped cream. Kind of fold that in as well. Alright. Good job, baby. So now we're going to add in about what an 8-ounce tub, I'm just guessing, would be. There we go. And we're going to fold it into this mixture. And this is what makes that center part nice and creamy but still fluffy. My assistant is standing next to me patiently waiting to lick the beaters. So there you go. So we're just going to fold this all in together. I truthfully think that's half the reason she likes to help me cook, because it's mostly desserts that she likes to help with. Now if you have a deep dish pan, use that. I broke mine, well I broke both of mine on pork loins of all things. So it's going to be a tight fit, but it will still work. And we're just using a 21-ounce cherry pie filling. It might be surprising, but I found that the Great Value pie filling, you get a lot more berries than some of the name brand ones. And that's it. So we're going to put it in the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours, and it'll be ready for dessert time after we eat our pulled pork taco soup. So this taco soup is much smokier than just like a regular ground beef taco soup. I did pull out the big chunks of fat and like cartilage from the pieces I'd put back in to finish cooking. So this is probably down to about 2 pounds worth of meat. And you can see it's still very meaty. And we're going to pack some of this up and put it in the freezer too, because as you can see, it made a ton.